until the 1984 strike. After that, there was a wee bit of it was easy to fall out with just through simply men working and men not working, always getting brought up in arguments.
You looked out really for one another. You know, if it was just like a sixth sense. You know, different from working maybe in a factory. You became a wee bit complacent. You know, you took things for granted. But underground, you had that wee bit. You know, in the back of your mind that something could happen. And you looked after it, you know. It didn't stop you having a laugh and a joke just the same as anybody else, but you had that wee bit more, you know, consideration for a lot of things, safety-wise. The danger was a hidden danger in that if there was gas present, you didn't know the gas was there. And if there was an ignition and the gas was, you know, ignited, that was out with your control. There was nothing you could do about that because it would just go right through the whole system and you're in the middle of the system. But as far as danger is concerned, the other danger would probably be from falls of roof falls. But the modern mining has all these big hydraulic supports now. Although if you don't watch what you're doing, you can be, you know, take your mind off the job. You know, something that can happen. But the danger was from roof falls and mainly from the risk of an explosion. There was other dangers like the haulages, the transport that transported coal back and forward, materials getting you'd walk in front of these things. It was just like walking across the road and getting hit with a car or something. So you had to watch where you put your feet, you know. But normally it was, you know, as long as you watch what you're doing, you'll be fine.
I was in a lot of where men were killed. I was in the pit when men were killed, and you automatically taken a day off your work. The mine closed. When there were a death in the mine closed. There was one time in particular, there was a man killed in the mine I worked in. We were all ready to go home. The manager went to the union and he says to the union, I'll give the widow, I can't mind the figure, but I think it was £400, which is a lot of money then. I'll give her £400 if you all carry on working. And we did. And that was the only time that happened.
If somebody lost their life, there was a couple of occasions when and it was a young guy who lost his life. It is quite a bit of a shock to the system. And you sort of, especially in New York, you know, it was just, you know, it's very unusual for a young person to die. But in a place like the pit, it made you very aware of how close you were to death. It could have happened to you, you know. So that's where the sixth sense comes out, where you look after. If you see somebody doing something, maybe not thinking you shout or you grab a hold of them, you do things like that, you know. But it's maybe a wee bit extreme that, but it did bring it very down to earth, you know, when somebody had an accident. Bad enough with an accident, but death was a bad thing. You know, it wasn't very nice.
In the mines in 1952, and 1947 was nationalisation. That's when nationalisation came in 1947, and from 1947 to 1942, that wasn't a very long gap, so I seen it. And I've seen it changing, and it changed for the better. The management, safety came in, the unions had a wee bit more say in the matter, they had more agreements with management, whereas before nationalisation, you were done what you were told.
The miners were very strong at one time. The management would tend to, tread carefully. They didn't want men to have disputes and all the rest of it. Men didn't want disputes either. But you would have strict managers the same as you have lenient managers. And he just took that as a pinch of salt, mainly the management respected what the men were doing, and you might get a tyrant type of chap, but he was put in his place. The men would get him sorted out by putting pressure on, and the management above him would take him to the side and say, look, don't rock the boat. But generally the men got on fine with the management. You come in and have a laugh with them just the same. As long as you did your work, they left you alone. I was on a job called stone dusting, and that was a safety job. It was nothing to do with the cold face. It was a procedure where you put stone dust down, and it incorporates the coal dust, and you make sure that 75% of the dust is stone dust rather than coal dust, because stone dust doesn't burn. Coal dust will be inflammable. So when you mix the coal dust with the stone dust and you made it 75% stone, that reduced the risk of an explosion, because if the fire comes out, it picks up that dust and it just uses it it burns all the way out. And that was a stone dust job, was to put barriers up to maintain the safety aspect. I don't know how they would have felt if the mines had still been going. It gives you the impression that when the mines were going, the pits were taken for granted. The pits were pits, nobody bothered about miners. But it seems now that it was a heritage. It was our heritage. It was history, and people want to know what went on there. They seem to be more concerned now than they did when the mines were still working. Hence, you get a lot of people coming here to visit, and they're quite impressed when they see how the mines worked and how men worked in these days. Some of them are quite taken in by this. So I think it was respect. I think was brought out. People respected what men did underground, because a lot of them said they wouldn't like to work underground. In these days, it was a heavy industry. You mining communities, and men, if they didn't get a degree, go to university, they always knew they had a job in the pit up the road. And it was just part of life. It was just a mining area. It's like a shipbuilding area or a steel area. It was a mining community, and I think people respect what men did.
I've worked the mines all my days. I take people round here and they just can't believe that men done what we done, and yet it was quite normal.